Before I start the meat and potatoes of this video, I wanted to take a second to thank anyone and everyone that has taken time out of their days to watch my previous content. I have been absolutely stunned with the views and watch time on my previous 3 videos, mainly my first 2. I could never in a million years dreamed of garnering that many views in my first content post in this short amount of time. If you haven't watched the previous videos or are new to my content, I would also like to thank you for watching this one. For those returning viewers, I want to deeply thank you from the bottom of my heart. The NFL draft has come and gone, and now that the dust has settled on undrafted free agent signings and trade grades, I thought I would give my 2 cents on this weekend's festivities. There was a lot of shock and awe starting in the first round in the trade between Jacksonville and Cleveland for Travis Hunter, as well as some crazy trades in the back half of the first round. The slip and fall of Shedeur has become well documented already, and if you have watched the ESPN coverage of the draft, it was ad nauseum. The draft is such a fickle beast. And with the rise of social media and the ability for Joe Schmoes like myself to post their thoughts, it has become a spectacle. I've always taken the approach that it takes 3 years to truly get the feel for a draft class's success or failure, and any attempt to judge it in the immediacy is kind of pointless. I mean, if you're looking for clicks and views, it's great content, but it doesn't mean much for the grand scheme of things. The way these teams view these prospects and the way the media and armchair scouts view them are 2 completely different beasts. One team is going to have prospect A as a top guy that fits their team well, while team B might have them off their board completely for one reason or another. If you're like me and tend to get caught up in after draft discussions, take heart knowing that the success or failure of the franchise doesn't revolve around one draft class, and a lot of times it's more an indictment on the coaching staff than it is the players. Anyway, enough of that diatribe. Here are the 5 draft classes that caught my eye while perusing the internet. First up is number 5 in the New York Giants. Let me start off saying I really didn't think I would like their draft class at first glance, mainly because I know the 2 guys at the top are fighting for their jobs at this point, and drafting desperately is normally a recipe for disaster. Dable and Shane may still be showing the door at the end of next year, but this seems like a good class for the next regime regardless. Their first pick was a no-brainer in Abdul Carter, the stud defensive end from Penn State. The Giants are loading up for pass rushing prowess next year. I heard earlier this weekend that the Giants may not be able to pass with their stable of quarterbacks, more on that here in a second, but no one else will either. And I agree wholeheartedly. With guys like Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeaux, and now Abdul Carter coming off the edge, it's scary to think about for their division. Now their second first-round pick is more of a coin flip for me. The Giants traded back up with the Texans into round 1 and selected Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. This one is tough for me because I do agree that the Giants need to have a plan in place for the future at quarterback. But is Dart really the answer? This guy seems like a late riser type, with teams falling in love during the visitation and down period where they pour over tape and analytics until they are blue in the face. This could be a home run pick, but they have to know, especially in that media landscape, that if and when Russell Wilson struggles, the cries for Dart, whether he's ready or not, are going to be deafening. Their picks in round 3, 4, and 5 are all guys I kind of fell in love with and believe are going to turn into at least solid players. In the third, they took Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle from the University of Toledo, and everything I've read and watched about the guy, I like. I believe he's going to do well in the middle of that nasty Giants defensive line. In the fourth, they nabbed Cam Skattebo, the running back from Arizona State. This one was tough for me, not because I don't think Cam will be a good player, because I desperately wanted him to slip to the Bears, but the Giants made a good move to pick him up. The dude is going to be a fan favorite. He's a violent beast that was the Sun Devils' offense last year. I love him so much, and I really hope he works out in New York. Their 5th rounder was Marcus Mabeau, offensive guard from Purdue. I thought he would go way higher than this. I love him at offensive guard. Everything I've read and watched, he will be at the very least a solid starter in this league in my opinion. The last couple picks were 7th round depth pieces and special teamers, so there isn't much to cover there. All in all, I think this is a very solid draft. Was it enough to save Brian's and Joe's jobs? That remains to be seen. The San Francisco 49ers are at number 4. I really thought the Niners did a good job at targeting need along with understanding the deepest positions in the draft class, and those 2 philosophies seem to align pretty well. San Fran lost a decent amount of talent in free agency period of the offseason. Guys like Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Javon Hargrave, and Malik Collins all left for greener pastures filled with wheelbarrows full of money. This was always going to be a retooling year for San Fran. Knowing that McCaffrey is getting older, Debo wasn't producing like he used to, and Brock Purdy's contract is going to be calling in the next calendar year. They needed to shed some salaries and get younger and healthier across the roster. I feel like this draft class was a good start. For their first 5 picks, they went all defense with guys like defensive end Mykel Williams from Georgia going in the first, Texas defensive tackle Alfred Collins going in the second, Oklahoma State linebacker Nick Martin going in the third, Western Kentucky cornerback Upton Short going to them with their second third-round pick, and finally big defensive tackle CJ West from Indiana going to them in the fourth. A small silver lining to the 49ers losing key talent every year is they are constantly getting compensatory picks every year. Don't ask me the math on how that is all tallied because it's beyond me, but San Fran knows how to work that system and it works well. A key attribute for most of those previous mentioned draftees is that the Niners are looking to stop the run and stop it well. Mykel was seen as a stout run defender at Georgia, and that should translate well to the NFL. Alfred Collins and CJ West are run stuffers, and they are big boys that know how to plug running lanes in the inside. I think these early draft picks, along with the addition of Robert Saleh, should help immensely after the NFL poached most of the starting defense from last year. The last few rounds of the draft were predominantly offensive guys for Kyle Shanahan, and I won't go much into these guys individually since late round picks for the most part are lottery tickets, and I don't know much about them minus the write-ups the websites have about them. But the addition of Jordan James, a running back from Oregon, I thought was a good get. Will he be a replacement for McCaffrey? Probably not, as that is asking an awful lot from a rookie running back. But it was an extremely deep running back class, and I think they took advantage of those numbers and didn't force the issue earlier and still ended up with a stud. Overall, it was a solid draft class with good upside. Number 3. The Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles did what the Eagles always do and stay patient and let the teams in front of them panic and make mistakes, and then reap the rewards of getting good players the rest of the league let slip through the cracks. Just based off their first 2 picks alone, they nabbed a high-end starting linebacker in Alabama's Jahad Campbell in the first, who I legitimately thought would go in the top 20. And then in the second, they took Texas safety Andrew Mubaka, who was one of the top safeties in the draft. The sad thing is not only does Philly draft these high-ceiling guys, they have one of the best developmental coaching staffs in the league that will more than likely get the best out of these guys. Don't forget, Philly had one of, if not the best defense in the entire NFL last year, depending on what metric you're looking at, and they will go ahead and upgrade the back end in the middle of the defense anyway. They also nabbed Ty Robinson, defensive tackle out of Nebraska in the 4th round, after they didn't have a 3rd-round pick after the trade with Atlanta. He has a good shot at being a viable replacement for Milton Williams, who left for the Patriots in March. Pairing him next to Carter is a recipe for success in my opinion. They then took a bunch of depth and special teamers with the first of their 3 5th-round picks, and University of Florida defensive back Mac McWilliams, and Georgia linebacker Samuel Munden Jr. Their 3rd 5th-round pick was probably the best and most savvy in my opinion, and landing Boston College center Drew Kendall, who was one of the best centers in this draft. This will most likely be another Cam Jurgens, who they just happened to draft in the 5th round and turn into a Hall of Famer. Just an impressive pick. The last few picks were interesting with a couple of specimen offensive tackles and Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord, who could turn into a cheap, solid backup behind Hurts for the next 4 years, along with defensive end from Virginia Tech. If you're noticing a pattern here, my last 2 classes are the usual suspects. Organizations not only draft well, but know how to develop these guys and put them in a position to succeed. This will be another building block class for Philly, and I'm anticipating a lot of these guys becoming household names in the next 2 to 3 years. At number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. The Bills had a type in this draft, and that was defense, defense, defense. The first 5 picks in this draft were defense, and quality defense at that. There was so much talk during the playoffs about how the Bills' defense was light in the bum and was going to get shoved around in the later rounds. Well, they did a decent job defending the power-rushing Ravens and took the Chiefs to the brink. This was thought to be a good defensive trench draft, and the Bills took advantage. Their first pick was Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Hairston. According to ESPN, the Bills were enamored with this class with the cornerbacks, and I believe they landed one of the best. And besides the on-the-field talent, how can you not root for the dude after he was the Green Room's community hype man, being genuinely excited for every other player taken ahead of him? I really hope he succeeds. In the second round, the Bills took South Carolina defensive tackle TJ Sanders. With their trenches picks, it was abundantly clear the Bills wanted to fix their run defense after last year when they were middle of the pack at best in most statistical categories. TJ is a good run defender and should help shore up the interior. Their third round pick was a favorite of mine in Landon Jackson, the defensive end out of Arkansas. The guy is a monster and such a good pickup in the third round. He will shore up the ends during run plays, and I think he has so much upside. Their fourth round pick is Deone Walker, defensive tackle out of Kentucky. He's just a mountain of a human being. He's great against the run and should help shore up the interior of that line next to draft classmate Sanders. Fifth round Jordan Hancock, a cornerback out of Ohio State, is versatile and more than likely fill in where necessary since he has experience at both outside corner, slot corner, and safety. Their second fifth-round pick, and Jackson Haws out of Georgia Tech, sounds like a good run blocker from the tight end position, and it's never a bad thing to have a good mobile blocker at the tight end position. The last few picks in the 6th and 7th round are depth and special teamers, with their 6th pick, Dorian Strong, a cornerback out of Virginia Tech, being the best possibility to eventually earn starter reps outside of special teams. The Bills did well, but they added beef up front on defense and took the best players available at cornerback when they weren't picking trenches on defense. This year should be a lot more stout against the run and hopefully keeps getting after the quarterback with development from guys like Landon Jackson. Number 1 is the New England Patriots. This one was hands down a no-brainer for me after seeing the totality of the class. The Patriots famously loaded up on defense this past March in free agency, spending a pretty penny on guys like Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane, and Mike Vrabel favorite Harold Landry. These additions were praised by most, if not all, pundits. However, the common sentiment was where was the offense going to come from? This weekend answered those questions and how with their first 4 picks in the draft coming on the offensive side of the ball. It was clear they had a plan. Their first round pick was one of my favorite prospects at LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell. This dude is tough, nasty, technically sound, and will develop into a stud left tackle if the Patriots keep him there. And the best part is, if all this works out, Morgan Moses, who they signed in March, will be able to play his more natural experienced position at right tackle versus square peg, round hole left tackle. Their second pick made me the most angry I've been at the draft in a long time when they took stud running back CJ Henderson from Ohio State right in front of my beloved Bears. This guy is a difference maker, and he will help Drake May a ton by taking a good deal of pressure off him by keeping the defense honest to the run. In the third round, they nabbed Kyle Williams, a receiver from the University of Washington State. I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about him, but the Patriots need weapons, and looking around at people who do this for a living, it really seems like he was a solid pickup. Late in the third round, I took one of, if not the best center in the draft in Georgia's Jared Wilson. This was a fantastic pickup for the Patriots, who picked up both their left tackle of the future and their center of the future in the same draft to grow with their young stud quarterback. The Patriots took 2 players in the 4th round, the first being Craig Woodson, a safety out of the University of California. Craig seems to be a good deep cover safety, and he was a little bit of a ball hawk in college, intercepting 5 passes over 3 years. And the second 4th round pick being Joshua Farmer, a nose tackle out of University of Florida State, providing good depth behind Chris Tonga and Christian Barrymore. In the 5th round, they selected an edge at LSU and Braden Swinson, who was good value all the way in the 5th round. After the first 5 rounds, they mostly selected special teamers and depth pieces. I honestly think this couldn't have gone any better for the Patriots. They took the no-brain move in the first and followed it up with savvy selections in the later rounds. Mike Vrabel had his hands all over this draft, and his hiring seems to be paying dividends already. I sincerely believe the above 5 teams truly crushed their drafts and drafted at least 3 or 4 future starters and stars. Whether it's the Eagles looking to repeat, the 49ers looking to retool an aging core, or the Patriots coming out of a rebuild, these 5 teams seem to do exactly what they needed to do with the draft capital they had.